Mud 47 September meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is receive any comments from the public. Dean, if there are none, we'll move to item 2. Consider and act on any adjustments. None. Okay, thank you. Okay, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion.
Seconds. Any discussion around any items in the consent agenda? That's changes, including the minutes. Okay, all in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carries. Consent agenda approved. Okay, we're getting into the meat of the topic now. Review and act on the district's draft fiscal year 2023 operating budget and recommended water and sewer rate structure.
All right, last month I presented the draft budget for next year. Today and memo today, within your packet, you have the final budget memo as well as the final budget itself spreadsheet. There were no appreciable changes from what we presented last month. The only note, put a note that is about $7,000 on the backside in engineering we put in for lead and copper rule revision. To deal with that and get a consultant on board for that. It was about $7,000.
Okay.
So didn't really change anything. Everything else, I believe, stayed the same.
Okay, so that's nothing material that we need to worry about. So with respects to the water and sewer rate structure.
Same thing. Tonight we'll need to adopt the budget and approve that. My understanding is next month or November we'll be contemplating or agreeing to voting on the water and sewer rates. Is that correct?
That's correct. That will be, they're already incorporated into this budget.
That's right.
So it'll be effective January 1st.
Correct. The rate changes would be, this budget includes the water and sewer rate changes as well as the, at least at this point, the proposed tax rate setting amount. That's
So
what
we
we
move to adopt the operating budget as proposed for 2023, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve? A motion. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all approved, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, same, nothing. All right, passed, good. So now we will start the public hearing, I believe, right, Brian?
That's correct. So just to recap, at your last meeting, we started the two-step process. I know we have a couple of new directors here, so I'll slow down and recap a little bit. So by law, we're required to go through 2 steps. Anytime we adopt a tax rate, the first step is to authorize the publication of a notice of the district's intent to levy a tax rate not to exceed a certain amount. Y'all covered that step at your meeting last month. You authorized the publication of a notice in the Conroe Courier that's of general circulation in district of a tax rate not to exceed 0.17591. I'm starting to play with the ball a little bit here. So that's what was published, and we've got a copy of that in your packet on page 15 that was published. Correct. All right. So with that notice being published, we can move on to the beginning of the second step of the process, which is to conduct a public hearing and then consider the adoption of the order that formally levies that tax. So we need to adjourn our regular meeting, which is always seems a little strange, but we adjourn our regular meeting and we open the public hearing for any comments from the public on the proposed tax rate. Any comments from the public? Being none, President, would you like to close the public hearing?
Yes, I'd like to close the public hearing. Public hearing closed.
And move on to item number 10. Consider an act on the levy of the district's 2023 tax rate and the adoption of the order. So we do have that prepared for the board today. It is comprised of 2 parts. One is the maintenance and operation portion. The other is the debt service portion. So debt service will be 8 cents and maintenance and operation is 0.0935. 95991. A motion to adopt that tax rate.
So we have a motion to adopt the District 2023 tax rate. Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Good. And I'd like to say that we're one of the very few MUDs that actually had all those rates go down. I don't know if you saw this last month, they've been rolling through the Conroe Courier and even the Houston Chronicle. And not only did the tax rate came down, but the actual dollar amount came down, which is quite an accomplishment. And we stand out, I think, from the other MUDs. Not every MUD's in that situation. So well done, team. And Eric and your team. Okay, that's 10. So now we have to approve the execution of the amended district information form. Is that what you're passing around?
That's correct. I'm writing in the rates
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
But the district information form, again, to recap, that's a requirement under the water code that you have to have the form recorded in the property records. It has a lot of factual information about the district, including what your current tax rate is. Also attached as an exhibit to the district information form is the notice to purchasers that's provided to folks when they buy property in the district. You may recall at your last meeting, we adopted a new form of notice to purchasers to comply with recent legislative change. We had to do that because of the effective date of that legislation. So it's a little silly that we have 2 months in a row that we're considering district information form, but that's the reason. Last month we had to cover it because of the effective date of the statute. This month, all we're doing is changing the tax rate year from 2022 to 2023, and then change what the actual adopted rate is. So we need to have a motion to approve that amendment and authorize publication, or not publication, recordation in the property records.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the district information form and post it to the public. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done.
Good. I'll send this down in a second.
Well done. Okay, I think that wraps up that order of business. Are we done, Brian?
I'm done.
Other than pass around. Okay, next item, agenda item 12, receive the regular San Jacinto River Authority Woodlands Division report.
Evening.
Hey, Chris.
Do not have anything to cover in the report, but Dan does have one item.
Okay,
So just one quick item on that is we've spoken a lot and had a lot of good discussion on AC water lines over recent months. But we also have a large wastewater program that is in the works, and that will be coming up again in the near future. We have a all mud meeting planned for October 24th in the evening, starting at 5 a.m.
You wish.
wow, it's gonna be a long one, huh?
Yeah, 5 p.m. That's over at our Estuary Woodlands office off Sawdust there in the training room. So main agenda items is give you all a general update of where we're at in this second phase of the strategic planning, looking at the layouts of the master plan for the facility and updated cost estimates. So I encourage y'all to attend.
We have on that report.
That's it, okay. Okay, let's move on to the item 13, which is the AC water line topic, one of our favorites.
So I'm going to hit the highlights. There is at the trustees meeting, Ed Shackelford gave a good 45-minute presentation, Q&A, if you will, on that. Page 36 is a summary of that presentation and his key points, if you will. I'm going to hit some highlights for you. So essentially with the AC lines, there's been a lot of discussion, as has been said. What we've noticed and what we came back and said is the MUDs are looking for more information. So what we're proposing is to pause the AC water lines. What we mean by that is any construction and any further design. So we're going to look to finish town center, which is already essentially bought and paid for 95%. Finish the town center, and Six Pines is included in that, but do not design any other water lines nor move to construction, but do move forward with condition assessment testing. So we took a straw poll at the trustee level and asked them, okay, trustees, who would be in favor of pausing this and moving forward with conditions? We've also been asking the MUDs. It's not an official vote, excuse me, it's more of just a general consensus. What we're looking for is to see if, in this case, MUD 47 is interested in pausing AC lines and gathering more data. The gathering more data does not come right now with a price tag where you're going to say it's going to be $3.5 million in 4 years. That's our estimate. What we're looking to do is have Dan and his team move forward with selecting a consultant to help us put everything together. The dollar figure vote would be early next year, possibly including the FY25 budget. To kind of wrap it up, pausing AC water lines for design and construction, but looking to move forward with the condition assessment testing. And Dan, did you want to add a few things?
Just a couple of things to add and then open it up for discussion. I did hand out at your spots just a general map, what this is. At request of one of the MUD directors, just wanted to have this for y'all's reference. It is the orange lines are the project limits for the current design of town center water lines. So the primary portion being along Crogans Mills and Lake Woodlands Drive. The bottom lower right section, that is the section of Six Pines. So I think it's approximately a little bit under a mile. Overall project is right around 3 miles. So just wanted to have that as a visual reference of what that project consists of, at least the design portion of it. Something else to add is up on y'all's Google Drive, we have recently posted dozens of documents for your reference and for you to go through as you see fit. This includes AWWA journal articles, other articles that we have either been presented to us or that we have found. There's peer review journal articles from the Water Research Foundation. We also received, I think, around 35 questions from a number of MUD directors that we responded to. So there is a document up there with the responses to those questions, various appendices, maps, charts, et cetera. So a lot of information up there that we wanted to make at least available to you. So feel free to explore through that. Let Eric know if you have questions and feed that back to us. So that's basically what we have to say. And, open it up for discussion on y'all's questions.
I have a question. How do you, first of all, what's the universe of people that do this condition assessment and testing, these consultancies? Are there hundreds of them? Are there dozens of them?
I would say there would probably be at least, I would think, 10 to 12, and they're typically larger, more national firms that have built the experience. A lot of the articles we're seeing are projects out in California. So I think for something that limited, there is a handful of very strong candidates or experts in that field that would be interested in a project.
Would you lean more towards those consultancies that have done those projects on older infrastructure?
Absolutely. So the request for qualifications that we would put out, which is how we would procure a qualified consultant, there is a number of evaluation criteria that we put in there, but one of them being, provide 5 projects of similar nature to, the current scope, which would be geared towards evaluation of AC pipes and condition-based assessment on those. So that's what we'd be looking for. Obviously, experienced personnel that have done those projects. We also typically have them include a high-level approach. Here's our background information and our general scope of what we're looking for. How would you approach that as a consultant? So there is, 5, 6 different evaluation criteria that we use in this qualification-based selection and evaluation.
Do the MUDs ever get to participate in that selection process?
No, but
We do. I do on your behalf. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you go to RFI or does it go straight to RFQ? What's the,
So this would be a request for qualifications.
Okay.
And something as large of a project like this, I would anticipate going to kind of a second phase of evaluation of actual interviews with kind of a shortlisted group of firms from that initially.
It's not common in this region to do this. There's not a, I don't know very many consultants at all that do this in Texas. So there's firms in Texas that have offices elsewhere that have done it significantly. Like HDR, the one in the California deal, they have offices here, but their office here hasn't done this. So we're gonna have to really vet the consultants that are involved for sure. Now, and something just to note, in Texas, we have a process called QBS, qualification-based selection, which requires that we select the consultant based on their qualifications. We cannot discuss costs or what they would charge until we've selected them on the basis of their qualifications. Then you can get into discussion on what it's going to cost and what they think their fees are. So just a clarification.
Yeah, that's good. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Any discussion with like other cities and other states that have done predictive-based testing?
After testing.
Like, is it just the foregone conclusion that a consultant is needed? Or does SGRA feel comfortable working with contractors directly? Or do you not have the resources, the manpower to do that? And could you have a discussion with other cities that have done condition-based testing? You know, who do they use for a contractor? Do they like, you know, that kind of,
Yeah, so
do they use a consultant or?
couple of responses, no, we do not have the internal resources or the expertise to tackle that ourselves and set up a approach and condition-based assessment program. The second part is when we solicit and receive those statements of qualifications from consultants, we ask them to provide references. So that way we could do reference checks and, call other entities that they work for to get kind of a general understanding of, from them, how was it a successful project or whatnot. We have talked to other municipalities and cities on how they approach it. Some of the larger cities, say City of Austin, they do have some designated staff to kind of lead a condition-based assessment program, but they are still supplementing with consultants and having that expertise. But, so something down the road, maybe SGRA, has an internal expert that can continue to lead this, potentially long-term condition-based program. But, to get it kicked off, no, there's, different softwares that we would need access to where there's expensive licenses tied to that. To be able to take all this data that we would receive during testing and actually, pull that into some sort of software program that's spit out, hey, this is your new priority and layout for these AC water line replacement projects. But yeah, we need that.
So Dan, a couple questions, maybe just to clarify for everyone. So you dig out a section of the pipe. We talked about doing it joint to joint, so you get to see the joints, not just a section between the joints. Because part of the discussion of the trustee meeting was it's not just the condition of the pipe, that the joints themselves are probably the weak link coming in the whole equation, right? So pulling up joint to joint, you get to see how they are, how they're put together, if they're, if there are different conditions in the joint level versus the pipe itself. You get a feel for the bedding, how it was installed, at least at that one little section. You send that off, do the AC handling on it, the asbestos handling on it, you send it off. A lab does its thing. Okay, I'm just going to put that in a big box.
Yeah.
You get some kind of report back depending on the tests you want to procure. The lab, as I understand it, does not give you kind of an answer on any of the useful life parameters. It's not giving you an estimate, or is that right? That's not their job to essentially provide a useful life estimate. They're just giving you raw data. Is that correct?
My understanding it is raw data based on physical and chemical testing that occurred. Then, this expert consultant we would have on board would help us interpret that data and put it into what we talk about as some sort of predictive modeling software to help us define that remaining useful life and prioritization based on a number of different metrics and not just an age-based replacement program. You have now all these different categories of data
Yeah.
that play into the overall
Okay.
evaluation.
Is it the same consultant you think now that would help you kind of put this program together? A 3-year, 4-year, 5-year program or 10-year program, whatever it is, the testing program, we can call it that. Is that the same consultant that's also, you would think would have to have the ability to also analyze lab results and
That-
provide a useful life interpretation, or could those be two different kind of expertise?
At this point in time, we would set up that request for qualifications to be, a continuous
Right.
program. So
Right.
it would continue the entire program.
Okay.
From start to finish.
Okay. And so then on a destructive testing test, where you're, in one case, going out to a perfectly good piece of pipe operating today, you're digging it up, taking this section out and sending it to the lab, and then getting results and getting a consultant to kind of analyze it. Do you have a feel for like what one of those full trip costs are at this point in time? Is it 10,000, 20,000, 50,000? And do you guys have, are you kind of narrowing down to what you think the range of cost is if you just did one single one?
I think we looked at some costs just on the contractor side of it. Wasn't that like 25 grand? Per pipe section?
It's about $25,000 just on average to excavate the pipe, bring it up, and it's give or take 5,000 for the testing of the AC. So per hole, 30,000, not including the engineering side.
Plus analysis, okay.
Again, it's gonna vary on the number of tests and type of tests
Yeah.
that are run. but
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what.
Right, okay. If you're doing this on a pipe that's broken now, okay, you have a leak in a pipe, I think there just was one, right?
Friday.
You want to explain this?
Want to see it?
Yeah. You bet, you know me. I take it home and look at the test.
it.
Yeah.
Where was it?
If you are interested, it is, man,
South Mill Bend.
South Mill Building was Timber Wild.
It's a good lesson.
I know. You have it last name, so I keep thinking Timber Top, but South Mill Bend area.
Okay,
It was a 16-inch AC line that broke along the bottom. There's actually, I'm sorry, along the bottom. There was a circular crack that started at the bottom, then went around the entire thing. And what happens is if your pipe's like this, it starts to shift, that's where it breaks.
makes sense. It kind of collapses underneath it and crank
Right.
currents, yeah.
So we pulled about an 8 to 10 foot section out of it. And so what we've done is we have that at the shop crated up and everything. But in case you want to know what AC pipe looks like, I brought a piece of it.
Good for you.
Oh,
So
go and tell.
it is sealed on the end. Don't open it up. It is asbestos. But people understand generally what PVC is and ductile and stuff. And AC, you may be thinking it's like concrete, but take a look at it. You can actually see the fibers and the layers and everything else. But so that is a piece of that pipe.
Okay, so that's an example of that opportunistic break where you go, hey, we're digging this thing up anyway. You've already repaired it, right? You've put in some other type of pipe, I don't know, PVC or something that's kind of a joint of that. Did you pull joints when you did that, or did you just kind of go around the break? Or
It was actually starting to go underneath the roadway, so we didn't want to set the roadway.
yeah,
So we only were able to get one joint
gotcha.
or not, one, couple.
Gotcha. Okay. So in that case, you're handling the pipe anyway. The cost of repair includes handling, digging up, and really now your incremental cost is kind of shipping it up, storing it, moving it to the lab, and getting it back and getting it analyzed, right? So a little different cost on just the testing piece that you would be adding in that case, an opportunistic break, right? So we got the breaks where we go after and we go dig them up. It's a perfectly good piece of pipe because we want to test some things. We got the breaks that happen because the testing we do on a break that's already happened, we're repairing it anyway. That's something less than 25,000 plus 5 plus an analysis, right? And then we have something like 6 spines, which is a project we're digging up to replace the line, put a larger pipe in there so we can go look at that. So it's another kind of opportunity, right, to get some data in and start thinking of what we have here. Is that correct?
It is, I'll just on one little item about the stick fines. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you're exposing the pipe, pull a piece and send it for testing. Well, I guess a couple things. This pipe that we pulled out, we currently have it crated and secured. We're not going to send it to the lab because we don't know what to test for just yet. So we're going to store it until we get either some more or we get the consultant on board to tell us this is what you test for. The second thing is Six Pines. That pipe is the only pipe that we know of in the Woodlands that is actually manufactured out of country in Mexico. So it actually has different specifications. The outside diameter is different from the other pipelines. Just throwing it out there, because if you do test for it, and you try to extrapolate that data across the Woodlands, it could be different because the manufacturers has different specifications.
Yeah. Of course, there's always going to be a twist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is it end to end the same pipe in the segment that you're proposing to replace?
On the parts around Woodlands Parkway, on the north and south of Woodlands Parkway, where it's broken before, we know that is the out of country AC pipe. Further down Six Pines, we have not repaired it. So I would imagine it actually goes down.
How do you know that it's out of country? Is it labeled on the outside or the developer told you that?
No, it's labeled as made in Mexico for one, and then two, when we're trying to find the clamp to actually fit it at the time, talking to consultants, they said, yep, that OD means it's made in Mexico.
Got it. So a pause in the program. I think you described earlier that we have town center designed, right? 90%, maybe it's 100% now, right? Is it 95? Okay. We kind of got a primer on the scope and scale of that. I think that's a $15 million project right now, something ish. Is that right? 15.5. Six Pines is a smaller piece of that. One of the questions on the Google Drive was, if you just did Six Pines on its own, what would it look like? If you just say, let's go ahead and proceed with that. We know now it's a different, kind of different pipe. Maybe there's more in the Woodlands. I don't know, but at least that piece, that can be good or bad. It's still a data point. It's just it has a little kind of asterisk by it, right? I think the question, I'm not sure I looked at the answer. Well, what is the incremental cost of dropping in some testing on top of Six Pines, right? You've got a line, you want to go from 12 to 16 inches to cure some operational problems or issues, right? So you're kind of replacing it for some hydraulics. You're going to be touching it, pulling out pieces, tying it in, an opportunity to go pull out some sections and do the same thing we're going to do on this other piece, right? And there's an incremental cost to that. There's some, just replacing it and putting in a new 16-inch line, right? I don't have a good feel for how much that is. If you did, test in the middle, test at each end, you get three coupons and you go test it. I think that'd be helpful for us to know. There's a number in here that Six Pines you can do for $2.8 million or something. That's what the Q&A said.
Right, the construction of the pipeline.
Yeah.
And I will say, we did get that, the engineering consultant that's involved with Town Center provided that to us with the one caveat that they didn't really have a lot of time to go back and see, kind of the economy to scale aspect to where, how much increase would we see in the unit prices, just taking it from a 3-mile project down to 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
So there is some concern on that side on, would we be, looking at some higher unit prices than we would normally, but also, is that going to limit us on, the contractors that would propose, being a smaller project, would we get the same level of interest as we would with $15.5 million project? So some things that, bring a little concern on just taking that out.
Yeah, so you're going to be carving out 15% of the project and whatever. We don't know the exact number quite yet, right? Maybe 20%. It's 30% of the mileage, but it doesn't look like it's 30% of the cost necessarily.
Do these contractors ever get excited about the prospect of more business? If you do this, you do a good job, there's more? Or do they only look today?
In this economy, they're not even looking for today sometimes.
What are they looking for?
Well, I mean, they got so much work in a lot of cases. They're just going from job to job to job, or they're turning down a lot of jobs.
I mean, you're a river authority, like pretty big chunk of business.
Contractors come in and do some inside the plant work that they do that, and they'll give you a little bit more on this one because they know coming up,
Right.
the aeration base,
Right.
stuff like that.
We bid $1.5 million job over the summer and had one bidder.
You don't get to pick. They bid. You can choose the best bid, but if you only have one, you have a choice to make to rebid it or select who you have and make that determination. And then to Dan's point, in my experience, size of the project can make a significant difference to the type of contractor you get as well. Because some of the better, bigger contractors won't even touch the small stuff. So then you end up getting contractors that are used to dealing with leftovers or smaller.
Yeah, got it.
And that doesn't mean they're not gonna be as good, but I've seen that often they aren't.
Yeah, and I think we're already limiting ourselves a little bit, just, kind of the specialty of methodology of pipe bursting that we propose. And not every contractor has that technology and equipment to do that. So, you know, if you go smaller on that, that may change the limits.
Are you gonna replace all of Six Pines to 16-inch?
It's just the portion, it's just to the other side of, I can't remember the road, just to the other, the first road north of Woodlands Parkway.
Right.
Every lot.
It's just to the other side.
We can go drive out there and look at it if you'd like.
Yeah, it's from, from Northville Bend to Temple.
I think all the areas that our hydraulic model indicated that we wanted some operational upside.
Mhm.
We included in this project. There isn't anything further up Six Pines than we
I
identified.
think most of that's PVC as well. Possibly.
So the Six Pines is
It's
Just
just
that.
that, yeah.
right there.
So you may not be pipe bursting any of it, right? If you're replacing it, you're twinning it with a new 16. You're not breaking the other one, right? Or you,
No, you're able to upsize through the pipe bursting technology to do
oh, really?
12 to 16.
I think the plan drawing showed a whole different path through there.
But the part, like Six Pines,
Yeah.
like the bought and paid for part is the engineering, right?
Yes,
Not-
at this point, yes.
Okay.
Now, under Woodlands Parkway would not be a pipe burst. That would be directionally drilled, and we're gonna realign
Yeah.
it from doing something kind of funky to just go straight across.
Okay.
Right.
So then on the testing program, the conversation at the trustee meeting, it was like, well, what would you be willing to spend kind of on a testing program, which was an interesting way to approach it. But is that kind of what your model is right now? You're going to kind of think about a budget per year and then go out and see what you can put together with the help of a consultant to say, here's you have some front end costs to get all the stuff done, but then you got this kind of ratable system that you're taking, destructible, non-destructible, putting both of those together. Is that what you're going to be working on in the pause, during the pause section? Is that?
Exactly. So kind of like the phase one that I talked about, the trustees meeting is on the front end, some costs that Dan talks about. Get the consultant on board, get it set up, do the first priority of like Town Center, Six Pines, stuff like that, those testings. Then after that, the 2, 3, 4 years after that could be testing Panther Creek and all the other AC lines in the area.
Yeah. So, yeah, we don't anticipate, having $3.5 million on one single PO for a
No.
person.
Gotcha.
It's going to be some.
Bits and pieces, yeah, come through. Okay. And you're sticking right now with your kind of one coupon per mile. Is that, you guys good with that number that
Budgetary purposes,
just for budgeting?
just for budgeting, I mean, if you think about it, you're gonna take 10 foot out of 5,200 feet and say, okay, this 10 foot represents that mile. I'm not comfortable with that,
I
but.
don't think it's, yeah. seems-
A lot of your questions are related
Right,
to.
they are, and that's where we're.
He's gonna kind of get to, okay,
That we
okay,
have the information
Yeah,
to that
okay.
answer some of these.
Okay,
things.
all right.
But that consultant will definitely need to help us with that.
I'm just trying to get a sense of where your head is, that's all, of like where your thinking is on going forward, that's all.
If we're gonna get data and you are gonna pay for it, it needs to be relevant.
Yeah.
It needs to be applicable and you don't need to have a lot of assumptions in it, so. Consultant's gonna help us figure out what we need to figure out.
All right, any other questions for the team here on this? Thank you. All right, thanks for the discussion, appreciate it. Thanks for the map. Okay, that's item 13. Go to 14, receive updates regarding the status of the Bear Branch, Panther Branch and Research Forest Drive Drainage Improvements Project. Good evening.
The primary update is that the consultant LJA has completed their draft analysis report, alternatives analysis report. And so Woodlands Water and SJ area are both reviewing that draft, providing our comments back. And we'll be scheduling, our next progress meeting is in October, and we'll be talking about their responses to our comments. More than likely. So far, the results have been pretty good. I mean, the proposals are having an effect on water surface elevation in the area that they're studying. The degree to which they're having the effect is still not 100% known. And one of the other things that came out of the most recent meeting was that we've asked the engineers to do just a little bit more modeling, to do some apples to apples comparisons with previous storms, because all of their analysis now has been done with Atlas 14 rainfall. And so do take a look at pre-Atlas rainfall, pre-Atlas 14 rainfall, so that we can see what the effects of their proposals would have had at that time. And so that's just a little bit additional modeling that they're gonna.
What is Atlas 14? Sorry.
Oh, in 2016, there was a change, a fundamental change via TCEQ, and we had such large storms that the landscape of what a 100-year storm is, of a 500-year storm is changed. And so there's a new methodology that was proposed, a new way of determining probable maximum precipitation depths. And they do that for different storms and different geographic areas for different duration storms. And they have a way of, the new method is a GIS-based method. So you take polygons, drainage areas, and then you can calculate for the different durations, you can calculate the precipitation depths. So that's all the technology that has been used on the current modeling. Going to take a snapshot back in time with the previous methodologies, like HMR 52. It was just another way of calculating those precipitation depths.
So is there a time when the draft report becomes a kind of nearly complete report that we get,
Yes, sir.
gets reported
I'm
back to us?
so bad about pointing out your page, and page 24 in your pack that's at your place. You'll see that the end of the calendar year is the scheduled completion of the stuff feasibility report. And I would imagine sometime, possibly at the December, there must do have a December meeting, correct? Either at the December meeting or maybe at the January meeting, bringing you an update on, on the results of that project.
I think there'll be a separate meeting for an update that we're still working through the logistics and planning for. But we do want to get a revised report from LJA. And then we're thinking late October, November timeframe of having a separate meeting to present results to those funding partners essentially on that project. So there will be more to come on what that is. How we plan it.
I mean, for a lot of us who never even got involved, we weren't here in the very beginning, right? And we kind of heard about this. It's been an agenda item for, going on 2 years. And so it'd be great to get a good overview of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, general thought is, hey, provide kind of here's the original goal and scope of the
Good.
project.
Okay.
Here's the report. And then, the following week, we're going to meet and essentially present the results and answer questions.
Perfect.
And there'll be a meeting, as everybody knows, my 67 secured the funding. Will there be a meeting with them first and then we'll come back to, or is it going to be all?
We're still working on that.
Okay. Well, any questions on that? Any further? Just while I have you in front of me, just further evidence of the uphill climb that we have at Bear Branch. You all helped pay for that golf box recently. And unfortunately, we've already seen vandalism, as you can tell. But the most significant thing is those two front corners are bent up where they tried to pry it open. They weren't successful, but you can see they damaged it significantly.
What are these?
It's unknown.
Okay.
I wish I knew.
Yeah, so there's nothing down here. Right.
Go here,
It's locked, so it must be
just a hole.
Because when I was looking over all of this, there was all this graffiti, which, okay, graffiti, but then all this damage to the fencing.
Mhm.
And I just, what?
Yeah, it's senseless.
Okay.
I will say that we have begun conversations with law enforcement. We're gonna engage them more frequently and even more than one agency. Do some more rounds. If we can set a couple of examples, you might start changing the landscape a little bit. But in this particular case, those 4 cameras that we installed couldn't capture this because they're on the downstream side of the dam, up high in trees, and this is of course on the upstream side and it's down low. So unfortunately, we weren't able to catch any footage of anybody doing this damage here, but that's just an example.
Is this burner? Is this, I think a blowtorch to this or something?
It looks like, yeah.
Fireworks kind of look like to me.
It does, yeah.
Campfire, fireworks.
I would think a campfire maybe would be, bigger. It does look like fireworks to me.
But the locks worked.
Lock worked,
I mean, it was stronger than they were, clearly.
right. And if they had gotten in, we've got some other safety features in there.
Yeah.
That was part of the project.
Right,
So
right, I know
that's
that.
all positive. It's just, we need to see if we can't stop this nonsense.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. Okay, item 15. Spring Creek study.
Oh, significant update there. It won't be till March, April time next year. We have the next PWG required policies.
Okay, Brian, received the attorney's report?
General items tonight, happy to report.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Eric, general manager report for the Woodlands Water Agency.
Yes, a couple things to note. Wanted to share with everybody that Jim's last day was last Thursday. So we're planning on doing a kind of a public reception here in the next month or so, working on some logistics and dates for that. Probably after hours during the week, just for a come and go type of thing. So we're working on that. He's still around, still talking, helping out behind the scenes, but wanted to point out in the packet, there's a number of articles and things about, and you probably see in the news, things about drought contingency. A lot of, I've talked to other colleagues in the region about their municipalities, and there's a lot of municipalities that are in heightened drought contingency or drought efforts. Happy to report that Woodlands hasn't had to do that, and we don't plan to have to do that. You're in good shape right now, and with the rain and the cooler weather on, I think we'll be in good shape. Kudos to all the folks involved over the last decade or so to arrange for surface water to be a part of your system, because about half of your water comes from, or our water comes from the lake. And that is really what's kept us out of having significant drought contingency restrictions to where you wouldn't be even able to water your yard at all. Those types of restrictions, serious restrictions. So kudos to folks. You're seeing a lot in the news about water and sewer rates, as well as you've contemplated your own. Other municipalities are doing the same thing. You're seeing a lot of articles about bond referendums and things like that. So a lot of other municipalities are kind of looking at some of the same things that the Woodlands is looking at. There's continues to be customer praises on dealing with our staff members, and I'm going to continue to celebrate those with staff, and really appreciate that. They're doing a great job. The last thing I had was just to give John a little bit of time to talk about the public education outreach.
Evening.
Hey, John.
31 is your communications report. Okay. So this month I wanted to zero in on some of what we're hearing as far as communications from the public. What are people talking about? And as you can guess, they're mainly talking about the drought, things that take from the drought, high bills, right? So in times of drought, our outdoor water use spikes, so do our bills. There are positives and benefits and challenges in that, I should say. So the positives are people are scrutinizing their bills more. So we want to capitalize on that. We want to help them understand how we determine their bills, and that is their costs go up with consumption. So better understanding their needs. The challenges are many as people get excited about their bills and communicate more, especially across social media platforms. A lot of confusion and misinformation spread. So we get lumped in with other providers, their policies, their rate structures. We see that folks really struggle sometimes to connect consumption with cost. Right. I clipped just one sample here of a social media post somebody put online, and they're wondering why their water bill was almost $450. Why is my bill so high? Well, and highlight there, it's got that they used over 60,000 gallons of water that. Right. So these are opportunities, right? Get good, clear information out to be transparent and to be empathetic when we do message with the public. A lot of questions about the surface water conversion fee. What is it? Why is it on my bill? And then a lot of questions and concerns about the fine irrigation schedule. That's been continuously in place since 2014, but honestly, a large segment of our population is not aware.
Yeah.
Or they see other folks watering off schedule. Or they think my lawn's going to die if I'm restricted to two days a week. Not true. So there's a gap to fill, an educational gap there. If you water this way, these practices, you can save money and still have a beautiful, healthy lawn despite the drought. So that's where a lot of our efforts are going right now, is addressing those questions and concerns. Page 32. The website continues to perform well. We're still seeing high visitation there. August was our second highest month ever. And then I gave you a breakdown there on where folks are visiting when they get in there. It's pretty high level. I'm happy to give further details on actually what those categories, how they further break down. But I'm happy to see that a lot of folks are going there to investigative services and educational resources. We had a contest reported last month to change the name of our weekly e-blast. It's now Woodlands Water Weekly. And that was a really fun and engaging contest. We had over 100 entries on the name, and the customer offered that up and was selected by popular vote. They're going to win a rain barrel for their efforts. Compliments of Woodlands Water, and that continues to perform well. We're getting about 12,000 accounts reading that each week.
Yes.
All right. Page 33, we've got some samples of our marketing efforts. You'll see that we are putting emphasis on value. That is our focus area for the fourth quarter, our strategic plan. Women's Community Magazine, watch for an article on GRP coming out next month on the 1st. And then the following month, something about how to read your water bill, all those line items need and how we arrive at those totals. And then on page 34, some stats on WaterSmart. So that is really the single best tool we have helping folks keep their bills low, get leak alerts, get high use alerts, and understand their water use. So we push that, we push that, we push that. Right now, we're at 34% of our single family residences are registered. 31% of those are actively using it. So what that means is 10% of our customers are actively using WaterSmart. They've been on it in the last 90 days. So lots of room to grow there. Continue to spread the word, sing it from the mountaintop. WaterSmart, it is a fantastic tool for our customers. And on the commercial side, again, lots of room to grow there, with 19% of commercial accounts registered. Eric will be meeting with SGRA and Holloway, the new communications consultant infrastructure program, next week. And then we'll begin joint efforts on that from there. So you'll be hearing more about those efforts as we go along. And then the latest updated in-person outreach events calendar is there for you. And as always, we would love to see you at the booth, wherever we are. Come on out and watch some folks. We've got a really good event coming up on the 30th, Woodlands Landscaping Solutions. That's a big one. And lots of lawn and landscaping stuff, resources there. And we'll be talking to hundreds of folks that day. That's on the 30th at Rob Fleming.
I don't see the Cochran's Crossing.
It's CCVA.
Oh, there it is. There
Yeah.
it is. Okay. I was like, I know where we're doing
Yeah,
that.
and then the Alden Bridge one is down there on the 4th.
There it is.
Hopefully we can get some more, Florida Association Festival.
Yeah. That's the day of my daughter's wedding, so I am not gonna be there. I'm sorry.
I'll be there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, I think. Yeah. I know.
You're gonna watch this.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
does. John, question for you. So two things. All the MUDs are publishing their rates and all that. Are we capturing some of that? Not just our MUDs, but MUDs outside of our community. Conroe Courier has had them every single day for the past 5 or 6 weeks. Houston Chronicle. I've been pulling those pages out. To me, if I want to communicate about Woodlands Water, I really would love to know what all the other rates are. You know, at least we see the tax rate on it, and you got to get a sense of kind of, are we going up or down, and how do we stand in that group and community of other water providers around us?
Yeah.
So just an idea and thought that, are we capturing that while it's coming over the bow right now?
We have, we haven't got an updated one. The last updated rate comparison was.
Water sewer rates, you're pulling out.
Sorry, yeah,
I
sorry,
know,
water
I know.
rates.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's a-
you're gonna look for champs on the
Yeah.
tax rate comparison.
Yeah.
Tax rate comparison.
Multiples higher than.
Yeah, and then that's where the big money is for most residents, right? Paying the tax bill at the end of the year. So I just think in our communicating efforts, anytime we have an opportunity to go get data that's just sitting out there in our newspapers, why not capture it? And however we decide to use it is something else again. I'm capturing it, but you guys are the ones that need to kind of think of, well, how am I going to use this? And
Absolutely.
right. So I think that's just a thought to maybe.
Dr. Gaynor actually been working.
Very good. Good. Yeah.
Everything.
Second question, comment. So when you do an article like for GRP, I love seeing those things. I think they're great. What another suggestion would be when those go out, invariably we get asked about them. And what might be really helpful for directors is to come up with a Q&A that of just questions that you think would be asked, the kind of the basic ones, and then give us an answer. And that way, I'm used to that kind of in our corporate world. Whenever we had something was about to hit the wire, you know, a group of people got very good talking points. Because if we ever got in front of the media, we were supposed to say that, right? This is different. I think we have some messaging that we have an opportunity to really synchronize on, and you can help shape that messaging and make sure that we're kind of hitting the right mark on it. So getting that simultaneously or at the same time you're pushing that stuff out, I think would really help the 50 or so directors that are out there talking to people, saying the same thing.
Do you ever collaborate with some MUD directors that might want to get involved, like, you know, sort of a peel off committee of 6 or 7 people just to give you feedback?
Well, always welcome feedback. We do have the public education committee.
Oh, okay.
He's on there.
MUD directors.
He's on there.
And you guys talk about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned is that, hey, you know, anytime you talk to somebody in the community, tell us what you talked about. Well, I'm asking you kind of the opposite. Give me a script to help me with the top 5 questions you think are probably going to be asked. Why did we build it? When did we build it? What does it cost? Why is it $2 and X cents? When does that get set? Where in my bill does that show up? And why is it fixed every month? You know, those are questions that some of us know the answer to, but maybe it's not good for a director to get a question on something like that big and go, well, I don't know, or say something off script is what I'm really.
Sure, absolutely.
So something that we can kind of be consistent in our communications. Just a thought.
I love it. And, you know, you're talking about the comprehensive package that's coming out specifically tied to a major communication.
Yes.
So we work on that.
Yeah.
Another tool, which is a little more spread out, is in that weekly e-blast, there's a water question of the week. And those are specific to the types of questions we get customers. And they're pretty basic types of questions. What is the SWC?
Yeah.
CQ.
Yeah.
And it runs again. But cue in on that, but you know, those are little doses, but I absolutely appreciate what you're saying is, you know, again, we have a communication piece that's major going out.
Yeah.
Get you prepared for
Well, and
it.
often the communication that we're sending out is in response to the questions we're getting in.
Yeah.
So that is the answer you're
Yeah.
asking. It's in the,
Yeah.
the outreach itself. So, I don't know how much of an effort it would be to put it together, but we'll look at it.
Maybe it's just some of in the case of GRP, the operational parts of it, that we know what our part is, but do we know there's 80 other contracts out there and there's all these other cities are part of it, not to get into the legal stuff, but just operationally, what is it doing for this region, right? And pointing out how much it serves us, especially during times like this.
And that is a very high,
Right. Yeah.
right now.
I'm sure.
Going back to the drought. Surface water. Lots of chatter about that.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, we're done.
Any other
Thank you.
questions for John?
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Oh, actually, I apologize. We have a bill stuffer going out
Oh, good.
in next month's bill.
Yeah.
Introducing our,
Yeah.
Introducing our new directors and
thanks for doing that.
Yeah,
couple
thanks,
other
Dan.
tidbits
Great
in
idea.
there. So Diane's been working with me on
Yep.
that. Got you guys all plugged in. Garrett, I just need a headshot. And, you ready to roll?
Or somebody's headshot. You don't want it yours?
He'll Photoshop one in for you.
Yeah, really. And it was, what a handsome director we got, you know?
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thank
that. Great idea. Good follow-up. Trustees report, Eric, any highlights you want to pull out?
Trustees approved the Wilderness Water Agency budget, and there was a lot of discussion about AC water line. It's very similar to tonight. I think you kind of summarized a lot of it in your questions tonight.
Okay.
Those were the major things.
Okay, good, thank you. Any need to recess to closed session? Nothing, don't see it. Okay, we'll pass on that. We are now gonna reconvene from closed session that we didn't have.
There in case we need it.
Yep.
Go.
That's true.
Like to have, yeah, I don't see any more public comments, so any agenda items for meetings that you all want to add at this point? Okay, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.